to the Truth from the Beginning, where we discuss what has been ordained for humanity from the beginning of time. Today's topic is Yahweh promotes division. So, of course, we're still going to be in the book of Genesis. And we know in Genesis there was a flood that destroyed all flesh on the earth. Now, who orchestrated this flood? We can see in Genesis 6, verses 6, that it repented the Lord Yahweh that he made man on earth. So he was grieved that he made man on earth. When you go to the verse before it, Genesis 6, verse 4, you'll see it says there were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God, Elohim, came into the daughters of men, and they have bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown, which means very respectable, honorable men. But again, Yahweh was grieved. Why is he grieved by man? He hates when man disobeys his orders to be subdued to him all the days of their lives. He hates when man comes into the knowledge of his dominion and power. So we see a flood was created on the entire earth, and all flesh was destroyed except for one man and his family, Noah, who found favor with the Lord Yahweh. But after the flood, we see Elohim come on to Noah, and he establishes a covenant with him and his descendants. That's in Genesis 9. And Elohim blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, like he said in the beginning, Genesis 1. And he also says, Genesis 9, verse 6, he says, whosoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God, Elohim, made he man. So he reminds him that you are made in my image. You are a son of God, and therefore I do not want man to harm man. For all of you have my image in you, have my spirit in you. And so when you continue in Genesis 9, you see the loving, very loving Elohim now says, I'm going to make a covenant with you and every living creature that is within you. And he says, I set my bow in the cloud to always remember this covenant, that I will never again cause the waters to wash away men. And so Elohim, in his loving nature, again, gives man dominion, power, and might, tells him of the love he has for him, lets him know of his dominion, of his image, of his true nature. And so man operated in that. Man operated in that calling. And so when you go to Genesis 11, it says, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Of course, because the whole earth descended from one family, Noah's family. So there was unity, there was love, they were abiding together, they were listening to the covenant that Elohim created. And so then you'll see verse 3, and they said one to another, go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach onto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Okay? So they're working together. They have this in mind to do, and they will do it. And who becomes upset? Let's read verse 5. The Lord Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man builded. Came, looked. And the Lord Yahweh said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do and know nothing, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go, let us go down, and therefore confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord Yahweh scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and left off to build the city. So we see the Lord Yahweh, again, fearful of man's dominion. Why is he operating like this? If he is God, why are you fearful of man? He's saying, now nothing will be restrained of them. Whatever they imagine to do, they can do. Are you not the supreme being? Why are you upset? Right? If man derives all their power from you, they can't do anything beyond you. Why are you upset? And so when you go to the New Testament scriptures, you see where they tell us when two agree, oh, there's nothing they cannot do. But here we see him being upset that they were all in one accord and able to do whatever it is they had imagined. But when we go to the New Testament, that was our promise, that if we're able to come together, there's nothing we can't do. So Yahweh's motives and intentions become clear. He desires division. Why? We know it's the age-old saying, divide and conquer. If they're divided, they can't work together to subdue me. Instead, they'll fight one another. They'll point their finger at one another. They'll have conflict. They'll compete against one another. They'll desire to be the favored one. And so division is what Yahweh intends for man, so that man cannot see the love of God in their neighbor. Because here we see they were operating in it. He said, I'm going to confound their language so they can't communicate. Mind you, the entire earth was one family. They were all kin, brother and sister, just like we are today, but we can't see it. Why? Because from the beginning of time, it was intended for it to be confounded, that we wouldn't see our neighbor as our brother. They speak a different language we don't understand. They have a different culture we don't understand. They're different, and therefore they're wrong. All intentions of Yahweh, divide and conquer, they will never know their power. They will never know their dominion, and they will forever be subdued to worship me and do my bidding and be my slaves on this earth. But Elohim always comes with a message, always comes with a messenger, always comes reminding us that we are made in his image. To further cement this division, in Genesis 12, he comes on to Abram. He says, now the Lord Yahweh said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. This seems great, but he is beginning to separate a people. He's coming to Abram and telling him this: I'm going to create a great nation of you. Blessed will be this nation. You are my favored. You are my chosen. What about all of those who existed on the earth that had Elohim's breath, that Elohim made the covenant with, that they should be fruitful and multiply? They are still on the earth. They still exist. And they're still Abram's kin. And then now it becomes even more interesting because we know Abraham had two sons. He had one where he was impatient and did it on his own, Ishmael. And then he had Isaac. Now we know the covenant was for Isaac. But Ishmael is still Abraham's kin. And so the Lord Yahweh in Genesis 16 goes to Ishmael's mother And he says and makes a promise. And so Genesis 16 verse 10, and it says, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for the multitude. Sort of the same promise he gave to Abraham's descendants through Isaac. And then the angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, thou art with child and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord had heard thy affliction. Verse 12, and he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. This is a troubling covenant. He says he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man. He will know no peace. Which again, we saw what Elohim said to Noah and his descendants, that no man should shed man's blood, for all of you are made in my image. But again, Yahweh is going to this person and giving them this promise, and going to these people and giving them this promise, and creating utter confusion. Then we can move a little further. We can go into the Quran. And in the 32nd surah, we can now establish that we know that Yahweh was the one talking to Muhammad, because he says so. He says, before a time I came unto Moses. That's Yahweh. I came unto Moses before. And you see how I destroyed the earth in those days because of their disobedience. So in this Quran, it's established that it's the same God that spoke unto Moses, unto Noah, and also the ones before that was speaking through Muhammad. And again, he establishes covenants with them as well. And so everyone is saying, I am the chosen this, I am the chosen that. They're not wrong. Yahweh has said this to them. But we see he is the author of confusion and division. And so he does this purposely. Thus, there will always be competition. There will always be fighting. There will be no peace. Every man's hand will be against another man's hand, because they are trying to be the chosen, the favored, when all of us are the chosen and the favored. All of us have the spirit of Elohim within us. All of us were made in his image. And so Yahweh came to earth to create division, to demand worship from man, to subdue man, to frustrate man. So man will never know of his true nature. Man will never know of peace. He will never know of love. He will never know of joy, so long as he serves him. But man always has an opportunity to right this wrong, because the God he seeks is within him. And that God is also within all of his neighbors. And so we see the division we're seeing on earth. It didn't just come about. It was from the beginning with Yahweh that he had established this to torment man. That was his purpose. That was his design. And so we'll discuss how man can now go back into his true dominion and authority, and we can know peace. We can know love, because everyone on this earth is deserving of it. Not a select few,